A ski and a happy Friday to you all. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX Diamondbacks broadcast, brought to you by our friends over at OG's Brands, the official sponsor of Flavoring Fridays. Head on over to ogsbrands.com to see their full lineup, including their two newest gummies, the OG's Naturals and the Big OG's, and find out where you can purchase. Of course, my name is Derek Montilla. I am occasionally known as your mayor of this whole entire thing we got going here. I'm joined by my vice mayor and your thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. And Jesse, less than 2 weeks to go. Spring training. We almost made it. We almost crossed the finish line.
Yeah, 2 weeks from yesterday, we're playing like
Yep.
actual baseball games, and actual
That's right.
baseball games sound so delightful to me, Derek. There continues to be, for all the excitement of having baseball back, there continues to be, some storylines in spring training, but
Sure.
not exactly a ton of excitement outside of
It's
the few
kind of the
roster
same
competitions
ones,
we have.
right? It's the same ones. Like, we know what competitions the Diamondbacks currently have. We know what
Yeah.
they're trying to sort through and all of that. So I mean, it's like basically trying to update when there really aren't many updates, right? Like, again, we talked about Tommy Henry struggling yesterday. That didn't knock Tommy Henry out of the starting, rotation battle, right? It's definitely doesn't help him secure that role, but it's not like one bad outing is going to change it, even two in a row like Tommy has had. But I did want to ask you, with less than 2 weeks to go, how much or what has been your favorite thing about spring training? I know this is kind of a general question, but you're out there a lot. The look on your face reads, "I'm done with this." But has there been anything that you've really enjoyed? I know how big of a baseball guy you are, and I know you love just literally being around a baseball diamond.
Yeah, well, truth be told, as much as from a storyline standpoint, I've been ready for the regular season for, probably a week or two at this point. I do love spring training baseball. I love just being outside. And, we've talked a lot about how Chase Field it has the airplane hangar vibe. And every year around this time, I find myself very much not excited to make the transition from bright, sunny, lovely Salt River Fields to the airplane hangar that is Chase Field.
You and I just talk about the clouds. We sit there and stare at the clouds, and we're like, Toy Story clouds today. Looks great. Weather's great. Feels great. Great to be out there. I'll say one of my things that I've particularly loved, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, was Torey Lovullo's press conferences just in general. I feel like Torey is being himself more than he's ever been. I don't know if that's just the fact that he feels comfortable with us. I don't know if it's the fact that he's been doing this now for as long as he has as the manager of the Diamondbacks, but he really just is a great person to talk to, and I always find him to be fascinating. He always has something interesting to say, and honestly, one of the things that I've really kind of enjoyed learning more about has been the whole 108 culture thing that the Diamondbacks have out there, or not, I guess not at Salt River Fields, but it's part of their makeup, kind of part of this standard that Torey is setting, Jesse. And I dove into it a little deeper. The 108 culture is actually like a spirituality thing, right? There's several religions that believe the number 108 is a sacred number that represents the universe, and it also that it represents unity, Jesse, which is obviously something that's a big part of the Diamondbacks culture right now, right? It's also very interesting because Torey loves bringing in these philosophies, I think, from other areas. Of course, we all know about the Belgian draft horses, right? And so the 108 culture is very much like that. It's in certain religions, certain spiritualities, that it signifies the presence sometimes of just the connection that we all have, right? But it's very interesting in a leap year, Jesse, because in a leap year it is said that the 108 number is especially powerful because the 366 days in a leap year, if you multiply them by each other, 3 times 6 times 6 equal 108. So for some reason, leap years are more powerful for the 108 culture. And we're in a leap year, Jesse. You combine that with how far we got and everything going, it seems like everything's going the Diamondbacks way. I don't know. It might be too early to decide that they're going to win the World Series, but I'm already there. I am already there.
I think you just convinced me that the Diamondbacks are about to win 108 games. Is that how we're going here?
You did it. You said the thing. We might believe that, but I don't know if other people are going to believe that. There's not a lot of time left, though, for the Diamondbacks to get ready for the regular season. Obviously, we know that there are a lot of questions still to answer, but the Diamondbacks, much like our Phoenix Suns with the playoffs right around the corner, don't have a lot of time left to get ready here for opening day. Anthony Castrovince, by the way, from MLB.com, dropped an article where he listed one goal for every MLB team. And his goal for the Diamondbacks right now, Jesse, is to don't just be a cute 2023 story.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty fitting. This is something that the D-backs themselves are certainly very, very aware of. They know that they kind of took the world by storm for a few weeks in October, but that's not the easiest thing to repeat. And Mike Hazen has been very open about wanting to not be the last team into the playoffs, on the second to last day of the season. Like the Diamondbacks would like to have a little bit more runway this time around. And they were a cute story, and that doesn't mean that they can't be, a great story again in 2024, but it's something they're going to have to go out and earn and prove.
It kind of gets me pumped though, right? Like I know that the Diamondbacks already have kind of a mentality of not letting what happened last year make them feel, overly confident about what they can do this year. But that's I think that's our feeling as fans. Like, don't let this just be an opportunity where we're going to talk about for the next 5 years. Remember in 23 when we went to the World Series? Like, that's not what we want. And even if you can't get back to the World Series in 2024, it doesn't mean it's a complete failure. It's just a matter of like, have this be the beginning of the Diamondbacks franchise being competitive for a number of years. Have them be a playoff contender and someone who's going to be playing meaningful baseball games, a team that's going to be playing meaningful baseball games in October. And that's really what we want. I think that we can all concede that, the number of games they won last year probably isn't going to get you into the playoffs again this year. And they narrowly made it last year. So it's not like that's something, I guess, to pat yourself on the back too much about, but like, just remember all that you did, remember what you were, capable of. And I know that's something Torrey has been using as motivation. We talked about it yesterday with the payrolls and looking across the NL West and seeing all the competition that's out there that you essentially have to, deal with this season. But again, the fact that they were able to do what they did last year, I think is just big on getting the players to buy in that you can do that. We can do that again. We just, the regular season is what it is. And if you're just concerned with winning the division, then that's probably going to be a letdown. But if the bigger goal here is to make the postseason and then make some noise once you get there, this team is capable of that, for the foreseeable future.
I think about, and I guess this goes to the comment that Elise just made in the chat about looking back on the 2017 season so fondly and kind of living through that, right? Like for how many years were we talking about the Archie Bradley triple as, the pinnacle of Diamondbacks baseball of the last decade? And in 2023, that clock kind of reset, right? There were a lot of new memories made. There was, the Gabi Moreno home run foul and then the actual homer. There was
It's a little sounds that it plays.
Nice. Of course, Derek has a bobblehead just sitting there.
They're all right here, Jesse. They're just easily accessible.
But yeah, in 2023, there were a lot of new memories made. I mean, more than were made in 2017 for sure. When you go as far as the Diamondbacks did, I mean, there are, probably 15, 20 moments that are going to stick with fans for a long time from that playoff run. But yeah, as you said, this is a team that they've had like 5 or 6 years between, any consecutive years where they've really been relevant. And that's something that they really want to change this time around. What will it take for this Diamondbacks team to become competitive on a year-to-year basis? And I think we all feel pretty good about this team's ability to do that. But you have to go out and show it. And, some of the young guys are going to have to take steps forward, and some of the veterans that they brought in, those guys are going to be counted on and will need to perform. So it's hard. It's been a real challenge for this team for basically its entire existence.
Yeah. And especially when you look across the way and see that the Dodgers have won like 9 out of the last 10, division titles. It just seems like an incredibly incredibly uphill battle, right? It seems like something that most of the teams in this division are going to struggle against, the Dodgers. And we're going to talk about the Braves here at the end of the show, but I think the thing that's most frustrating is the way that teams like the Dodgers and the Braves have this financial security for themselves set up based on very savvy moves that they did that you cannot actually be mad about, because they were just good financial moves that yielded revenue that allowed them to be able to continue to invest in their teams and thus make their teams juggernauts that the rest of the division is going to have to deal with for a very long time, right? We could get into all the ins and outs about how fair that is, but when the teams are just coming up with business plans that allow them to have that extra revenue to reinvest back in the team, how can you really be mad about that? But anyway, moving on. The Diamondbacks, of course, did have some guys that were sent down to minor league camp yesterday. Jesse recently wrote a great article on gophnx.com about 5 Diamondbacks players that are kind of flying under the radar during spring training. A couple of those guys did get sent down, but I do think, like Jesse alluded to in his article, that we will see some of these guys come back just basically as depth pieces. And I think some of the guys really did make an impression that would allow them to be kind of there at the top of the list. I know one name I think of that you wrote about was Logan Allen. I was actually a little surprised to see Logan Allen sent down to minor league camp, just based on how much positive things that have been said about him so far in camp.
Yeah, I mean, Torrey said about a week ago, he was asked, is Logan Allen in the competition for that 5th rotation spot? And Torrey said, yeah. I think in some ways he's kind of obligated to say yes when he's
Sure.
asked those types of questions.
Sure.
But yeah, and when I wrote this story, I was specifically focusing on players that Diamondbacks fans just, are not likely to know much about or to have really paid much attention to this spring. And I really wasn't expecting many of them, if any, to actually make the opening day roster. Corbin Martin was the one guy on the list that I was like, this guy has a chance to actually make the opening day roster. And even if he doesn't, he has, a chance, I think, to really make an impact this season. The other guys that were in that story, just interesting names to keep an eye on, guys who've had some prospect status, guys who have, in the case of Josh Green, once one of the better starting pitching prospects in the Diamondbacks organization. It's been a bit of a rough go for him over the last few years. He's now a reliever, but he had a pretty strong camp. I liked what I saw from him. He's 28 years old now. He's not much of a prospect, but I heard really good things about him when he was in AA last year. He wasn't quite as good. He wasn't nearly as good once he got to AAA, but I still think that the door could be open for him to make an impact with this team. Logan Allen is, as you mentioned, figures to be a depth option for the D-backs. He's pretty well buried on the pitching depth chart right now, I think, but someone that the D-backs could wind up needing if injuries arise or whatnot. Humberto Castellanos is another guy that was in that story, someone who is coming off Tommy John surgery and came into camp this year looking completely different from what D-backs fans and Torey Lovello remembered.
Yeah.
We told the story of Torey having to introduce himself again to Humberto Castellanos because he had lost 30 pounds and had no idea who he was talking to. He's another guy that, numbers wise was really good this spring, and, it was only 7 or 8 innings. You're not going to read into it too much, but I think Castellanos is at least on the radar as a starting pitching depth option, maybe a long relief depth option for the D-backs that, I'm not expecting to see anytime soon in the majors, but someone to keep an eye on who could make an impact at some point.
And you brought up Corbin Martin, but Corbin Martin is the one guy of those particular players flying under the radar you wrote about that really does have the opportunity not only to make the team, but I feel like, be that guy, be that piece that the Diamondbacks needed to kind of add to their bullpen. we've discussed the fact that the Diamondbacks didn't really add any pieces to their bullpen through free agency or trades this offseason, and that might have been a mistake. We know the bullpen was very good at the end of the season last year, but the bullpen struggled the rest of the season. It definitely wasn't consistent. Paul Sewald, Ryan Thompson, these are guys that brought some stability. Obviously, Kevin Ginkel was very good, but you just don't know if you're going to get that same performance out of guys like Saul Frank and Thompson, considering how good they were in the final months of the season and how unlikely it is to be able to maintain, that level of success as a reliever here in 2024. However, I just think Corbin Martin is that guy that could be, the Kevin Ginkel, I guess you could say, of the bullpen for 2024, where we're just very excited about him. Guy that's been in the organization finally gets his chance. If he can stay healthy, I think he is a guy that kind of can make up for the fact that the Diamondbacks didn't add any pieces to the bullpen.
Potentially, yeah, he's on the list to throw out in Maryvale today. So he was good in his first outing against the Padres the other day. I really like what I saw there. We'll see how it looks in his second outing. It still seems doubtful, as we discussed the other day, that Martin will be ready for opening day. Right. Not impossible. Torrey didn't rule it out completely, but it doesn't really seem like things are trending in that direction. We've only got, as you said at the top of the show, about a week and a half, I guess, of like Cactus League games at this point. And if you're going to have someone on your opening day roster, you need to be comfortable using them more than just once every 3 days, which is the schedule that he is starting out on. The D-backs have been really careful with him. If you're going to put him on the roster, you probably want to know that he can do a back-to-back, or that at the very least he can pitch every other day if you needed him to over a stretch. That's so I wouldn't be surprised if he starts in the minors, but he definitely has the stuff. I've been really impressed with the stuff I've seen in spring. It reminds me a lot of what he looked like last year when he was totally tracking to make the team. Someone else who was on that list for me was Ricky Karcher, guy that I'm guessing D-backs fans maybe not too familiar with, someone they signed to a minor league deal in December. He has appeared in one major league game, and it came last year with the Cincinnati Reds. He was called up from the minors and thrust into a save opportunity. And not just any save opportunity, Derek. The Reds were up 5-4 in the bottom of the 10th inning, which means that there's also a man starting on second base. So he was tasked with stranding that runner on second base, and he wound up being successful. It wasn't the prettiest
did he do it?
outing in
All
the
right,
world.
Let's go.
He did do it. It wasn't the prettiest outing. I went back and looked at his pitch chart, and he was throwing like fastballs and sliders all over the place. Command has been an issue for Ricky Karcher, but he entered last year as the number 20 prospect in the Reds organization, according to Fangraphs, and just really struggled to throw strikes last season. So if he's able to find a way to get his command back, we saw him throwing on a backfield the other day. He struck out a couple of D-backs hitters, and his stuff is electric. He throws up to 98 miles an hour. Incorporating a sinker. It looks like he has a wipeout breaking ball as well, a changeup. So if he figures out how to command the ball, he could become a factor in the bullpen at some point, but we're probably a little ways from that right now.
Well, the D-backs are down to 40 players remaining in camp, so we have we have our 40-man right now, at least, or not 40-man roster, but 40-man in camp. One thing I do want to just set everybody's expectation for, or I guess set the standard for. I don't know. We're not using the word expectation anymore. But is that this team, I think, is going to be a different team than what we saw last year out of the gate. And when I say that, I mean some of the decisions that they're making, including Corbin Martin, how slow they're taking their time with him. I know Randall Grichuk is another guy that they're kind of taking their time with and they're being careful with. The beginning of the season does not feel extremely important. It's more about making sure that these guys are healthy and ready to go for the bulk of the season. So some of these guys that aren't starting the year on the roster will end up on the roster. Obviously, they're going to be used for depth. I don't know if the Diamondbacks have ever had this much depth coming into a season. I feel like that's a big storyline here when it comes to spring training isn't who they're going to get to fill certain roles. It's which guys they're going to choose to go with, and essentially what guys are they going to have to deal with, being in Reno and possibly looking to them at any point during the season for them to come up and add some depth to the major league club. But it does feel like the Diamondbacks are in a better position than they've ever been as far as depth is concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree. At least for a long time, at least in Torey Lovello and Mike Hazen's tenure.
Yeah.
And where you
Yeah.
really feel this is on the 40-man roster. You know that you've got some talent in your organization when you're struggling to find 40-man roster space for guys. And I think that is an issue the D-backs could have in a couple of weeks if Tucker Barnhart makes this team, which I kind of expect him to. We don't know for
Yeah.
sure, but it seems like he's the
It
front runner
appears
for
he's
that
going to.
backup catcher job. He's a non-roster invitee, so you'd have to create a 40-man roster spot in order to get him on there. Same story with Elvis Andrus. If the D-backs want to put him on the opening day roster as the backup shortstop, he's a non-roster guy. They'd have to create a spot for him. Kevin Newman, his case to make the team is maybe not quite as hot as it was at the beginning of camp,
Right.
but he's another guy who's a non-roster invitee who has a chance to make this team, and they'd have to create a 40-man spot for him as well. So D-backs are going to have to make some tough decisions. There's some tough decisions around the corner with the various competitions happening. Who's in the rotation? If they want a long reliever, which I think they probably do, which of those starting rotation candidates do they want to bump into that role like they did last year with Trey Jameson? And then, the backup infield jobs, figuring out what they want to do in the outfield, especially if Randall Grishik is not ready to go for opening day. There's a lot of decisions looming for this team here in the next 2 weeks.
Well, we appreciate you guys being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel to go over all of these decisions with us. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our shows go live. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that. Or drop us a like here on YouTube. Leave us a review on the audio podcasting side. Make sure you're subscribed over there as well as a listener. We always appreciate the feedback you guys give us in the reviews. And we thank you for stopping by and watching the show. Of course, make sure to fill up over at Circle K. I know that the 40-cent gas day is over, but you're still going to be hard-pressed to find Circle K or gas anywhere cheaper than Circle K, especially if you sign up for their Inner Circle membership program for free right now by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Participating locations, visit circlek.com for details. But if you do, you'll save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You'll also save 3 cents off per gallon every single day, as well as get a number of items for free in the app. Coupons, buy one, get one free in the app. You also get a buy 5, get a 6th one free on a selection of Circle K products, including pizza, coffee, and ice cold fountain drinks. So make sure to stop by Circle K today and get it in you. Speaking of all of this wonderfulness that's going on this year, can't wait to get down on Prize Picks for the baseball season. All of these other sports, their time is up. Our time is now. Right now, there's no shortage of high stakes moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement, whether it's with hoops or baseball, with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your knowledge into serious cash. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's this simple to play. All you have to do is make your picks. You pick more or less than on a number of stats for players. And if you are right, you'll cash in. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/PHNX and use code PHNX for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/PHNX and use code PHNX. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Jesse, it's time. It's MLB the Show time. It is here for early adopters, people that paid extra money for like the deluxe version, or if you're an absolute lunatic and you have Game Pass, you paid an extra $40 just to get the game a few days early. God bless you people and your disposable income. But there is a special award that MLB the Show gives out. Yesterday, I got to see the box that the award came in. We saw Corbin Carroll come in. It was a wonderful mail day for Corbin, but he had a treasure chest with him. It looked like a treasure chest, and inside was a spectacular award. I think we have an image of him like a proud papa showing off his award, but Corbin Carroll received his Diamond Club trophy from MLB the Show yesterday. Look at that bad boy. It is absolutely gorgeous, Jesse. That there in the middle is a special 1-of-1 Diamond Club Topps baseball card and a trophy commemorating this achievement. Only the top 40 players across the entire MLB are part of the exclusive Diamond Club from MLB the Show. And this is the 4th year awarding these elite players with this special achievement. So congrats to Corbin, man, on being one of the best players in baseball. And suck it, Foolish Bailey, for your troll list that made us do a segment on you. But anyway, Corbin Carroll, of course, a wonderful baseball player.
Can I just ask, like, where do we think this trophy ranks for Corbin Carroll? Like, of all of the trophies
Okay.
on, the Corbin Carroll mantle in his parents' house or wherever these are being kept, this one can't rank very high. Like, this is from a
Bullshit.
video
What?
game.
That's
This is
crazy.
from a video game, Derek. The man just won the NL Rookie of the Year award. I don't
That's
think
why it's
this
second.
one. I don't
That's
think
why
this
it's
one
number
holds
2.
much weight.
It's number 2, Jesse. It has to be. Were you not there when he was talking about how much he loves baseball cards? He has a
That's
special 1-of-1 Topps Diamond Club card in this trophy. No other human being has that card, Jesse. If he's ever broke, do you know how much money he could sell that for? My God. But anyway, no, that
I don't
trophy,
think he'll have to worry about being broke. I don't think that's a concern.
that trophy has to be pretty special. The only reason why I say that is because I think the younger you talk about a person being, the more a game like MLB the Show has been influential in their lives, right? Like, I remember MLB the Show debuting because I'm that crusty and old. But if you've just had it in your life your entire life and you've been a baseball player since you were a kid, that to me is something that I think is pretty significant to you. Like, I don't know. I give me a trophy from Nintendo of any kind, and it'll be the most important award I've ever won in my entire life. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I think, no offense, but I think your level of accomplishment in life and Corbin
How
Carroll's are maybe
fucking
maybe in
dare
two
you?
slightly
How
different
dare
places.
you?
Hey, it'd be the same for me, Derek. I cherish the 3-point competition trophy that I won when I was maybe 16 years old in high school.
You shouldn't.
I still remember. It was honestly that's kind of when I peaked, Derek. I'm pretty sure. I beat this guy from
this
the
is when I
varsity team
peaked,
when I was
Jesse.
on JV.
The PHNX Comeback Pod of the Year award. That's when I peaked, right there. This is the most important award to me. I love this. Mwah, I love you. And him. I love him too. Speaking of that, Archie Bradley was in the clubhouse the other day. I know we talked about that, but it was still great to see him and his wonderful beard in the clubhouse. Yeah. But yeah, Archie Bradley, not an MLB the Show. Diamondbacks players are, and MLB the Show because it is actually out. The game is out now for you early adopters. They have released their full list of player rankings. I was prepared for a fight once again, like the other day when we had the top 5 player rankings, and yet, Jesse, somehow I'm not really that mad.
That's a sign of maturity for you, my friend.
I
think it's also these ratings are pretty fair for the most part. I think maybe a couple D-backs players we can talk about who should be a little higher than they are. But
Sure.
yeah, I guess going as far as the D-backs did in the playoffs, a little more notoriety around some of these guys. They did justice by most of the roster.
Your ratings boosted. Yep. So when we talk about that, obviously we know the top 5 that we already discussed. Corbin Carroll and Zach Gallen both are 91s. Ketel Marte an 89, which you could argue about and say Ketel is definitely a 90 player. Christian Walker an 88, which seemed honestly high, pleasantly surprised with that. And then rounding out the top 5 was Merrill Kelly with an 83. So where do the rest of the Diamondbacks players stack up? And this is, again, where I got very excited, very happy I didn't have to drive down to MLB The Show's headquarters and light it on fire. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Was an 82. He is an 82 in 2024. Eduardo Rodriguez is an 81. And the guy we were most concerned about, Gabriel Moreno, is an 80. And that's all we wanted. We said, give me Gabby as an 80 and I won't lose my mind. And he is.
Yeah, he's also an A potential. That's another thing that is interesting to look at.
That's right.
It makes a pretty big difference in the game with how good guys get over time. So Gabby is an A. Means he could be, maybe he bumps into the 90 range at some point. We also have Paul Sewald as an 80.
By the way,
right
that's
there.
significant. Not to cut you off, but like Christian Walker is an A potential at 88. Ketel Marte is still a B at 89. And then you have Merrill Kelly as a B, Lourdes Gurriel as a B, and Erod as a B, and Gabby being lower statistically or ranking wise at an 80 is the A there. They also have Perdomo at 78 with an A ranking as well.
I'm sure Damon is elated
Oh, he's
to
doing
hear that.
backflips right now. Damon
Let's
Dog.
fucking go!
There he is. Yeah, baby. That's a good one. But yeah, like you said, Seawald tops out, or I guess rounds out the 80s with an 80 himself. So thoughts on that? I mean, again, seems very fair. Seems exactly where, honestly, I would have ranked them based on, you start Corbin Carroll and Zach Gallen out at 91 and where everybody else falls from there. I think Merrill still deserves to be higher than where he's at, but everybody else seems fair.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine right now, like if Perdomo's a 78 and he's an 8 potential, does this mean that if you start an a season with the Diamondbacks and MLB the Show 24 and you play and you simulate a few years, is Perdomo like a 92? Like,
Yes.
how high is the ceiling here? If he's an 8 potential, it means he probably could break the 90s. And I'm maybe a little bit skeptical Perdomo will reach that level of ceiling.
Meanwhile, they're saying Cattell is hit his ceiling. They're like, Cattell is going no further than this.
I guess it's just because Perdomo's so young. I mean, I think it's 23 years old still.
Sure.
Being that young, they're gonna make your potential rating fairly high if you're already a good player and you are that young. I do think there is one grave injustice on this list, Eric, from a Diamondbacks perspective, and that is that one Kevin Ginkel is a 76. And this is a man who had a very, very good regular season, especially in the second half. And then he went in the playoffs and just did not allow a single run for, I think it was 11 2/3 innings. So Ginkel's got to be at least in the 80 range for me. I honestly think his rating should probably be higher than Seawald. I think that's pretty fair at this point. Wow. So I would have had Ginkel in maybe like the low mid 80s, something like that.
We got Gino Suarez at 78, Ginkel at 76, Grichuk at 74, Jock Peterson there in the 74, Brandon Pfaadt 74, that Jace Peterson 73, Ryan Thompson 72, Miguel Castro 71, Joe Mantiply 71, Ryan Nelson 71, Alec Thomas 71. I don't love that. It's probably the other one I don't love.
Yeah.
Considering Jordan Lawler is a 70, again, with a potential. Jake McCarthy is a 70, and Kyle Nelson rounds out that top group with a 69. Nice.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Alec Thomas?
Yeah, I would maybe have him a little higher. I just think his defense is so good that he's probably deserving of being in the at least like closer to mid 70s just because of the defense. I think Ryan Thompson, you could argue, is a little bit low at 72. He was huge for the D-backs in the second half. I know his season stats weren't anything spectacular. It was like a 3.81 ERA because he did have a couple of especially poor outings when he was still with Tampa. So you could argue that he should be a little bit higher. The fact that he is only 1 point higher than Miguel Castro, people probably don't feel too good about that. We're seeing as how Ryan Thompson was significantly better for the D-backs when he joined the team.
I don't like Alec Thomas being lower than Jace Peterson, Jesse. I just can't accept that. I can't accept that. Yeah. I refuse to accept that.
Yeah, Jace Peterson being a 73 is a little surprising. I probably would have expected him to be lower. I guess with him, there's just a long track record of being not a great player, but a useful player given his defensive utility. His defense ratings are probably pretty decent. But yeah, he didn't hit much after joining the Diamondbacks, to say the least. So that I'm a little surprised that's not lower, and Alec Thomas should probably be a little higher.
You were right about the young players, though, because the guys with those lower ratings that have the potential, the letter grades, they have Brandon Pfaadt as a B, Ryan Nelson as a B, and Alec Thomas as a B. They also have Jordan Lawler as an A and Jake McCarthy as a B. So these are guys, like you said, if you simulate a few years out, you might see these guys, their stats raised substantially. You might see that rating raised. It's just, again, overall, I'm fairly satisfied with the way everything played out. I mean, they're never going to get everything right 100% of the time because as developers, I think it's too difficult with so many players in the league to know everybody and justify every rating and have everything fall where it should. But I again, maybe I was always approaching this as a fan more in the past, or maybe it's just because the Diamondbacks never got the credit they deserve. It just feels like this is put better ratings than I feel like I've ever seen. And I know pretty much the Diamondbacks are always the team I play with when I fire up MLB the Show. So it feels good. I'm excited. Can't wait. Not going to pay the $40 to get it early, but I can't wait for this.
If I were doing a season with the Diamondbacks, I would probably just simulate out maybe a couple of seasons, and because
3
it's a
years
video game, we could
through
probably
the Zach
easily
Gallen contract.
re-sign Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, so that wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, just simulate out a few years, and you've got Jordan Lawler, like maybe well into the mid upper 80s. You've got Geraldo Perdomo, like vying for MVP votes. You've got Brandon Pfaadt, blossoming into maybe like a mid upper 80 pitcher. Gabi Moreno potentially into the 90s, maybe Corbin Carroll's in like the mid upper 90s a few years from now. You could have a lot of fun with that. What did Damon say?
This is the world that I want to live in. This is the society that I want to live in.
It's an advanced society where the friendship metric takes over above all other baseball metrics. Like Ernesto says, they definitely didn't take into account the projected friendship over replacement player stats, and they obviously didn't do that. Also, first podcast of the new year for our guy Wyatt Whitfield. How much stock should I put into the spring record we currently have? I'd like to say none, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not thrilled with the results, and I don't think any Diamondbacks fan is, and I think it's hard to put the results out of your mind. Let's just stay cautiously optimistic until we reach the actual regular season and until those games start getting played.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the ever important spring training standings right now to see where the Diamondbacks are in relation to some of the other teams. And I don't know, the Colorado Rockies are 12-7 right now. So I think that says about all you need to know about how important I think spring training records are. And we saw the Diamondbacks, what was it, 2016, when the Diamondbacks just came out and totally shoved in spring training. The Diamondbacks in 2016 were 24-8 in spring training, and it was an actual storyline. I remember like local radio, they were talking about it and how the Diamondbacks looked like this team of destiny, and they were really basing that off how the team had played in spring training. And I don't want to say that it doesn't matter at all, but I mean, in 2016, the D-backs lit the world on fire in spring training, and then the season started and they were an utter disaster. So I basically read nothing into spring training results. I do read into individual player performances a little bit, depending on the player and the situation. But yeah, I would not be concerned in the slightest with the Diamondbacks record right now.
I thank you for bringing us all get a little bit of peace when it comes to this entire situation, because I know I'm even having a hard time keeping that into perspective. However, we do have Ketel Marte, who's hitting 455 with a 1.150 OPS. So
we will read into that.
Yeah, we'll read into that 1,000%.
Yeah, Ketel Marte is going to win the batting title because of that. But, Alek Thomas not really hitting in spring training, that's irrelevant and should just be brushed to the side. So, you can kind of pick and choose what you want from spring training a little bit.
Thank you. Well, do whatever is good for your own mental health. But speaking of mental health, great way to relax and enjoy yourself was with our friends at OG's Brands. If you have a wedding coming up that you need to enjoy and want to enjoy it a little more, do it with OG's Brands. It's a great way to get yourself through a reception and right into the party. OG's has launched 2 new products made with live rosin and Rick Simpson oil, by the way, the OG's Natural and the Big OG's. Been talking about it for a while. OG's Natural is a vegan gummy, of course, made with live rosin, while the Big OG's gummy is a mega version of Peg's Raspberry Orange RSO. It is a 100 milligram single serving that is perforated into 10 slices. Use it as you wish. But to learn more about OG's gummies and all of the wonderful options they have, including their sleep gummies, their happy blends, and so much more, and where you can find them, head on over to ogsbrands.com or to your local dispensary. Also, speaking of having a good time, Game Time is the place to get your tickets for all of your sporting events, including spring training tickets. Jesse and I definitely noticed an uptick in fans coming out this week. Some of these spring training games at Salt River Fields were absolutely packed. It was great to see so many people out there enjoying the wonderful weather, enjoying baseball. And if you want to do that, you can get your tickets with Game Time. It is the place for last-minute ticket deals, and it is the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Jesse, I don't really want to talk anymore about stadium news necessarily. However, I did find something to be very interesting. And we know that obviously the goal with Chase Field is to be a better stadium, right? But we do know that the other goal with Chase Field was or is essentially to try to build some sort of multi-use facility around the ballpark. We've heard this a lot. It came up a lot when the Coyotes were trying to get their arena out in Tempe, right? A multi-use facility that has restaurants, has offices, has apartments, has all of these things, right? And it seems like some sort of, I don't know, like downtown Disney kind of situation, like one of those things where it's like a big shopping area and has a bunch of things all clustered together. And, it makes sense from the perspective of making a night out at the ballpark a little bit more than just going to the game, going out, going shopping, going, out to dinner and catching a ball game. It's an important factor because recently this tweet dropped yesterday, I think. And it says that Atlanta's The Battery, which is their multi-use facility, brought in $59 million for the Braves last year. Damon, do we have that tweet? I guess not. Oh, there it is. Okay. So of course, what he says here in the tweet is, if you're wondering why every American sports team wants to build a mixed-use development around its venue, the Battery earned the Atlanta Braves $59 million in revenue last year. It's now the team's third largest revenue generating category and growing at 10% annually. And that's incredible. That is incredible. It really is incredible because that means that it is the team's third largest revenue generating category behind attendance at games and broadcasting revenue, Jesse. And this facility is completely owned by the Braves. This was a $400 million venture. It was entirely funded by the Braves and their development partners. There was no public funds used in any way. It was not subsidized. There was no involvement. Now, Truist Park, which is the Braves ballpark, it's owned by Cobb County, the same way that Chase Field is owned by Maricopa County, right? This is what the Diamondbacks want, and this is why they want it. $59 million in revenue that was generated by a facility that is completely owned by the team is bonkers, and that is the reason why the Atlanta Braves are going to continue to have money to spend, and more money than probably the rest of the teams in the NL East at times, based on having business deals like this.
Yeah, this is the model that the Diamondbacks want to follow. Ideally, Derek Hall referenced the Battery specifically about a month ago when they did their whole press conference on the stadium situation. So this is what the D-backs would want, and it's a matter of figuring out how to make it happen. It doesn't seem especially doable to me, at least not on the scale that we see in Atlanta, because
right.
Things are trending toward the Diamondbacks staying at Chase Field and just trying to renovate Chase Field. And there's not a ton of space around it that you could use for something like this. I think there is some space.
And Truist Park, by the way, is nowhere close to downtown Atlanta.
Yes.
Like Truist Park is very far away. It's, there's things that you could say that people have argued about what Truist Park being as far away and having this Battery over there has done, right? Like, yes, it's great for the Atlanta Braves, and yes, it's great for the businesses involved, but there has been discourse about how it's taken away from local businesses that used to be, around the ballpark, and how some of those businesses have died based on the fact that this, has been built. And there's always going to be a negative impact, right? But in regards to what teams like the Braves are doing, like you say, we want to follow that model. We want to follow the Braves model in every way, just about. We want to follow their model in the way that they extend their players and keep the young guys on, as part of the franchise for what seems like the entirety of their careers. We want to follow it financially with the way they're doing it. It just feels like the Braves are doing everything the right way. Now they are leaving the blueprint out there for other teams, but not every team is financially able to make something like this happen. And in the case of the Diamondbacks, space is kind of a big problem, right? Because even if they get the money to do this or find, development partners, there's not space anywhere around Chase Field in its current location to do anything like this.
And I think that's always been the best argument in favor of building a new stadium somewhere else in the Phoenix metro area, is that you could create it in a space that does have room for you to build hotels and restaurants and business offices that businesses are renting out and whatnot. The D-backs really want to find ways to create additional revenue streams, and it's hard to do that when you're stuck down. I don't want to say stuck downtown, but when you're downtown in an area that's already fairly built up. I do think there's maybe some room. Like I do think there's some room around Chase Field. There's not a ton going on south of the building. It's not a great part of downtown, I guess, in general. Maybe there's room for them to build up a little bit there. But yeah, this is what the D-backs would love to do. I think Atlanta, they knocked it out of the park. Everyone's talking about this, and $59 million is a big number, and that's what the D-backs want. They've operated since the beginning. I guess since Ken Kendrick took over, they've operated as whatever money comes in, that's what we're gonna spend on the team. And the D-backs, I don't think are in the top half of revenue generating in Major League Baseball right now. And because of that means that they're not going to be spending in the top half of the league in general. And that translates to the on the field product, that translates to, the team that we're watching on a day-to-day basis. So if they can find a way, they would love to. It's just a matter of trying to get through what appears to be a pretty complicated situation right now.
I hate it. But I get it. It just feels like, giving a metaphor, yesterday you and I got Uber Eats delivered to Salt River Fields, and it felt like
a miserable experience.
It was an absolutely miserable experience, and I feel like the reason why was because I had ordered it just too early. Now, I was crafty. I was taking into consideration a lot of variables, and I thought if I order this right at first pitch, it'll give a chance for all the traffic to kind of clear out of all the late people getting to Salt River Fields and getting in. I was just too early, Jesse. Had I ordered this meal 5 minutes later, our poor Uber driver would have had no problem getting into Salt River Fields and delivering me the delicious chicken teriyaki that we had ordered. Instead, by being early, I completely overcomplicated the situation, screwed both myself and the Uber driver, and resulted in us both, the Uber driver and me, having to walk a far distance to meet each other. I don't even want to get into any of it more than that, but metaphorically, it feels like the biggest problem at times with Chase Field is like it was just built too early, right? Like we just got a team just too early, because even though Chase Field was a brand new stadium at the time, it felt like there were leaps and advances in things to do with stadiums and ballparks and things like that just happened a few years later. And it really sucks at times that that's what it feels like the Chase Field was just built too early. They tried to do cool stuff with it. I mean, the retractable roof was revolutionary at the time, and the pool and everything like that. But in the grand scheme of things, there could have been a lot more thought that went into it, or at least had we just been a little bit later, maybe had some of that stuff. But anyway,
Damon, you were at the Battery over the summer. I'm curious what your experience was like.
I was, man. There was just like a lot of bars everywhere. It felt like there was like people that were just going like to the Battery area to just hang out during the game and watch the game. Like it wasn't just like people that were going down to the ballpark, which would just never happen at like Chase Field area, I feel like. So that's kind of like, what the goal is. And like, it was like, if there was an away Braves game, that would be the first place I would want to go watch it. There's like bars with like 3 stories in it. Super cool spot.
Yeah. I get excited whenever I run into somebody that tells me that they like went to like the Guy Fieri's place down there just to watch the game. Like, oh, I just wanted to be in the atmosphere. That happened a lot more during the World Series because people couldn't get tickets and they just wanted to be there. Right. But yeah, you're right. That's not like a regular occurrence. Don't go down to Chase Field because you want to be right next to the ballpark, but hey, let's just, instead of getting tickets, let's go get get some food over here at this restaurant right across the way. And I mean, honestly, like if there was more stuff to do, I bet all of those restaurants would be more packed. That would be way more of a thing, right? And you're right, Jesse, there is space. It's not like there's no space. It's just a matter of sacrificing it and kind of doing as much as you can with the limited space that there is. It's not to say you can't do something though. The stadium is very tall. You could have a very tall, I guess not too wide extension that adds on to there, maybe goes up to the corner of Jefferson and such. And I don't know. I have no idea how they would even begin to make that happen, but it feels like that either needs to happen or they need to move. And I don't think moving is really in the cards anytime soon. So we'll see.
The convention center, it was a good run, but
it's a wrap.
We just don't have space for you anymore because the Diamondbacks need to build.
We've outgrown you.
A full-on village around the stadium. So
I'll be there this weekend. So I'll go talk to the people at the Phoenix Convention Center. They have the Game On Expo. I gotta go do the commissioner bit. We're wrestling at the Game On Expo, Jesse. And I know I can hear Max yelling at me, no free ads right now. But I'm just saying I will be at the Phoenix Convention Center, and maybe I'll talk to some people about what how much
about
is it
knocking the building down.
Yeah, just get rid of you guys. How much is it going to cost to make you go away? I'll find that out. But of course, one way the Diamondbacks could get there is by winning the lottery, and you can do that too. Maybe you can help out and donate a little money to the Diamondbacks should you win the lottery. But Arizona Lottery right now has their new ticket and promotion called Arizona Adventures. There's 3 ways to play it. You can play using Arizona Adventure lottery tickets featuring 3 iconic landscapes. These tickets have prizes up to $50,000. You can enter tickets online for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. And you can also check in at geolocated adventures across 10 destinations around the state, from Flagstaff to Yuma. The Arizona Lottery says this entire promotion is about environmental conservation, and proceeds from the ticket sales will support environmental conservation, among other important initiatives across the state. The Arizona Lottery is not just about playing games and winning prizes. It's also about giving back to the state and its communities. Visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. Also, I need a burrito. Sombreros is the spot. I have one right here next to me because they opened up some new locations, including one in Goodyear, Peoria, and my location here in North Phoenix. But Sombreros right now is offering PHNX listeners 20% off their orders for the entire month of March. It's a family-owned and operated restaurant, was voted Arizona's most loved Mexican restaurant. You can throw a fiesta with our friends in Sombreros. Let them do the cooking for you tonight and get that 20% off. 20% off your order up to $100 when you use code PHNX at checkout for the whole month of March. Available in restaurant, drive-through, and when you order online. Not available on third-party delivery. Sorry, Uber Eats. Visit sombreros.com for more information. Well, that's all we got. But Jesse is actually going to be joined by one of our best friends in the whole wide world, Patty Plantains, to do our Saturday episode. So make sure to join them on Saturday. They're going to be talking about the spring breakout games and kind of how everybody is loving to see these young prospects get the opportunity to shine. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the people's producer, Damon, he's at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And we might be Damon's dogs. Bark, bark.
Bark, bark.
No, that's not a convincing bark at all. Of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on Monday. And until then, we love you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you adequately rate Gabi Moreno in your video games.
We all silly like the mayor.